Could Doug have Jalen where he is right now? Do you think he would have evolved him into being what you're seeing right now? Or would there have been too much meddling? Welcome aboard Thursday's edition of the National Football Show with your boy Big Sills. Yes, Kyle, you start my day off on a great note every single time. Thank you. You must be related to Xander. Oh man, thank you so much for coming aboard, Kyle. You're my kind of viewer, man. You are totally my kind of sports talk radio fan. That's exactly the kind of guy I like right there, man. Thank you guys again for coming aboard. Please hit the like button. Hey, before we get going here, I'd like to send all my prayers and everybody being safe out there for Hurricane Ian. I mean, the devastation down in South Florida is absolutely incredible, especially on the West Coast side near Fort Myers. 2.7 million people are without electricity. And the devastation that happens in the state of Florida because of those hurricanes, sinkholes pop up and, people lose homes and all kinds of businesses get destroyed because you can no longer go back into those buildings. The flooding, see, Florida's not built for flooding. I was listening to Sports Take and I heard D Gunn say, how can they not be prepared? You got to remember something about the state of Florida. The infrastructure in the state of Florida, there's not a lot of highways there. This thing was set up years and years and years ago, back in the 50s, as a retirement state, and there wasn't really a lot of highways. You got 95 that rolls all the way down to South Florida. You got the I-4 corridor. You got Alligator Alley. You don't really have a lot of major highways in the state of Florida. You got 10 that goes across the top, 95 that goes on the eastern seaboard, and you got Alligator Alley on the left side going up towards Sarasota. You don't have a lot of highway systems, so it's hard to get to certain people in the state. They've done as much as they possibly can when it comes to infrastructure there, but the highway system in the state of Florida, when hurricanes come like this, it's hard to get to folks. Duval County, you're talking Pasco County, you're talking Hillsborough, down in Sarasota. Those places are tough to get to. So we send a lot of love to you guys out there. And really, getting through the hurricane is one of the aspects of it. Dealing with the flooding after is incredible. From what I'm understanding, too, the Buccaneers are down in South Florida, in Miami, practicing. I think the Jags are just in Fort Lauderdale as well. I think they're practicing down there. Then they're going to head up to Philadelphia. And I think there's going to be awful weather on Sunday. I think it's going to hit the Philly area. If I'm not mistaken, the storm on Saturday night. So by the time the game comes on Sunday, that's going to be a lot of weather, a lot of rain on Sunday for that Jacksonville Jaguar Eagle game. So that's going to be something to contend with. Who does that probably favor? Both teams have a good running attack. Okay? Obviously, the Eagles are better when it comes to who has the better one. If you're looking at going who's better running the ball, it's, in my opinion, it is the Eagles. So this is going to be a very interesting ball game. Plus, Doug comes home, too. This whole weekend, I cannot wait to see how this plays out. Don't go to sleep on Jacksonville. One thing also, this will be the best team that they play. It will be the best team that they play. Bottom of the hour, JP Sadrick is going to join us, and we're going to talk to him. He's part of the broadcast team for the Jags, and we'll talk to him and get his thoughts on what he sees with the development of Doug Pederson's Jacksonville Jaguar team as they come to Lincoln Financial on Sunday. We look forward to talking with him and getting his thoughts on the football team. So please hit the like button. Thank you guys so much. It's going to be interesting. Tampa water is gone. I mean, hey, I posted a picture of my former condo where I lived. All that water, That's Tampa Bay. That's where Brady threw. That's where they hold Gasparilla. If you go to my Twitter page, at Dan Sileo Show, that's Tampa Bay. And I lived in the second building on the right in the picture that I posted. That thing's usually all the way up to the top of the road. All that water got pushed out because of the hurricane. They hold Gasparilla there. That's where Brady threw the Lombardi Trophy from one boat to another in that bay right there. There's no water in it. There's no water in that thing. It's incredible. Okay. All right. Let's go over to some sports here. Congratulations, Jalen, on being named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month. Congratulations. Kudos. Okay? Kudos to you. You've gotten out to a nice start. Absolutely. Jalen's done all the things that it takes to prove naysayers wrong like me. First 3 games, he's done everything. And by the way, I say that with context. The 3 games, don't take it as a negative when I say that. That's all the games that have been played so far. Tonight we got Cincinnati and Miami. But take it for what it is. He's done everything possible in these first 3 games of the season where he has played and done every single thing that he needs to do to win. Okay? And he has. And he's done it in 3 different styles. Detroit was a completely different game. Minnesota was a different game. This past Sunday was a different game against Washington. He deserves all the accolades that are headed his way. And good for him. Okay? Once again, I always want to put this under there. I'm just not sold on that style. As much as I love Lamar, as much as we all love Vic, is Jalen going to change that? We'll see. That's like telling me that a great quarterback one day is going to come out of Ohio State. Well, I haven't seen it yet. And you guys are telling me C.J. Stroud's the next guy? People told me Dwayne Haskins was. People told me Troy Smith was going to be. People told me all these guys like Justin Fields were going to be. All the guys that have come out. Terrell Pryor. All of them that have come out of Ohio State have been dog shit. But C.J. Stroud's going to change my opinion, right? Sitting here on September 29th. Completely doubt it. Hurts is dual threat. That's what they were saying about Vic. How about this? You think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Michael Vick? Dev, what's up, man? Appreciate you stepping in. Do you? You think that Jalen's better than Vic? Hurts is dual threat. Carson Wentz says no. Paul, different. Malik says, so you think that Jalen's better than Michael Vick? Big Sills, how are you? Appreciate it, man. Right now, no, says Jalen. Vic had a stronger arm. Yeah, but wait a minute. Vic didn't win anything. Vic's ceiling wasn't high when it came to winning NFL championship games. There was never I think the most he ever did was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think he got to an NFC championship game. That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. Warren Moon never made it to a championship game. And Warren Moon is considered one of the greatest arms of all time. Dan Fouts never made it to a Super Bowl. Hell, Phillip Rivers never made it to a Super Bowl. There's a lot of great quarterbacks that haven't made it, so I'm not indicting, I'm asking. Hurts didn't win anything. Not yet. It's early in his career. Let's be a little fair there. Yes, better than Vic. Hurts studies the game. That's true. I think he's more of a student of the game than what Michael Vick ever was, especially early on. Vic told everyone, he didn't really understand the quarterback position until Andy Reid got a hold of him. Is that fair? McNabb wasn't a pocket passer at Syracuse. Well, when he put 66 up JM on Miami, when he was at Syracuse, he sure looked like a pocket passer to me. Kenneth, Seals, I never said CeeDee Lamb was the best receiver in the division. I said the guy in Washington is. I said he's the best in the division. Now, the best receiver in the division is A.J. Brown. Hurts is a quarterback in a halfback body. Nothing wrong with that. Vic never studied. Hurts is on pace for 5,000. Dev, he's also on pace for 26 touchdowns. That's not really high when you're talking about you needing him to play MVP ball. He needs to be up in the 30s. If you want to make it to the NFC Championship game, he's got to be in the 30s. Okay? So don't look at those trends. And 5,000 yards, he's not throwing for 4,500. I know everybody thinks he is. We'll see. Let's wait and see how these next games, and especially in a game like a game like this coming up on Sunday, if there is the bad weather that's going to be reported, that's going to hit Lincoln Financial, I don't want him throwing the ball 38 times. I want him doing the things that he's done in the first 3 weeks. Pick out a way to win against Jacksonville and go with it. Hurts's work ethic has gotten him to the point. Vic hasn't driven and wasn't driven like Hurts. Kyle, that's a pretty good statement. If Michael Vick had the work ethic that Jalen Hurts had, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Michael Vick is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He will not get into the Hall of Fame. Just so you know, he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. Vic doesn't have the numbers. Or, quite frankly, the wins. There's nothing significant about Michael Vick. And the reason I'm doing this, Vic is a pretty high ceiling quarterback. Hey, and by the way, so you guys know, I completely loved watching him. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch play the game. I loved watching him play. Okay? I loved watching Michael Vick. He was must-see television, but it didn't really have a high ceiling in winning. And when we're talking about the first 3 wins here, he is different than Vic, though. Michael Vick ran a lot more and was a great open space. Sills, you see Michael Irvin interview on Jalen Hurts on Rich Eisen. I don't really watch Rich Eisen. He doesn't really do that hot a show. He's got really good guests, but his takes suck. Okay, the best thing about the Rich Eisen show are his guests. Not a very good interviewer. Vic was iconic, Isaiah. Yeah, but he didn't win. I thought you had to win championship games, Isaiah, to be iconic. He was exciting to watch. He surely was. So again, Michael Irvin, hey, Paul, I'm sure he was. He came on our show and he said that the Eagles are in the thrust of building a potential dynasty here. Okay? So, and look, I love Matt. Matt's one of my favorite people too. Rich's takes are better than yours, but you're here. Okay. Let's do this. This is going to be a pretty interesting weekend when it comes to Doug Pederson. And Doug comes home. Okay? And Doug comes home. Look at the job that Doug Pederson is doing with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like the same quarterback, does he? Doug is just working his magic with this player. He is just, Trevor Lawrence is really getting better and better and better and better and better every week that I watch him. Would he have had that same impact on Jalen? May I make a statement about Doug Pederson? I got to think that one of the reasons that Doug Pederson didn't stay in in Philadelphia and chose to go to Jacksonville He didn't want to coach Jalen Hurts. He didn't want to coach that style. That was the quarterback that Howie had in the house then. Because you guys remember the conversation. They were trying to do everything in their power to move Wentz. Doug probably asked him, who are you replacing him with? We got the guy. We got the guy. Okay? Xander says, pretty sure you're dead wrong. He wanted Hurts over Wentz. Saw a comment that Doug made yesterday that said this. He's going to prove all the naysayers wrong. Looks like he's starting that. We'll never know in that building. You could say that all you want. What was the starting of that quarterback and benching? Doug Pederson's last ball game was a train wreck in Philly. Okay? It was a train wreck. Nate Sudfeld? Boy, that sounds like you really loved him. Well, we just wanted to see what we had. Oh, really? Why? Why wouldn't you start getting as many reps as you possibly can for your favorite quarterback, Jalen Hurts? Something happened at the end there where you decided to sit Jalen Hurts and put a stiff in at quarterback. Why was that? Were you sabotaging the team, the general manager, or the coach? Or what was the whole dynamic there with that? Look at Doug Pederson's last game, not the Super Bowl game, because that tells you more about the relationship with the front office. Okay? I'm gonna take Xander's word saying he wanted to coach. Something went on. Doug's last game really showed a lot. And the discord between the front office and the head coach. You sat Jalen Hurts? Why? Why'd you sit Jalen Hurts? No. Xander, I'm going to take, hey, so if you love somebody so much and you're both on the same page for Hurts and you want him to be the future and you're getting ready to push Carson Wentz out, what was Nate Sudfeld doing in a game? Then they moved him in the offseason. You telling me that's not fishy? Hey, the things you tell the public and the things you are doing behind the scenes, front office-wise, are sometimes polar opposites. Why did Nate Sudfeld start the last game? Or no, he didn't start, right? Or did he? Who started Doug Pederson's final game in Philadelphia? Did he come in the second half? I forget how that dynamic worked. I remember I went, got some food, came back, and there was a stiff playing quarterback. Okay? He was told to tank. Hurts started. Okay, thanks, Paul. Then they brought him in. How about this? Can we agree on this? Howie made Doug lose that game for the Smith pick. You didn't know Smith was going to be there. That's Steve-O. When you're not the first pick in the draft, you don't know who's going to be there. Jalen Waddle could have been there. You have no idea unless you have the number one overall pick who's going to be sitting in that spot. You have no idea what the team in front of you does when it comes to draft. You have no clue. That is not true. Okay? How many times you see draft boards get turned upside? The Cowboys fell into Micah Parsons because they wanted the DB from Bama, Surtain, who ended up going to the Broncos, so they settled for Micah Parsons. Okay? They settled for him. They didn't realize what they drafted. Jay goes, this is what I'm not assuming it. I'm asking it. Don't you think that final game in Philly is fishy? Why didn't they play him? Tanking him for Smith? That's not reasonable. Let's say this, though. Could Doug have done the same job that Sirianni's doing right now with him and Shane Steichen? Do you think he could be doing the same job or better? Look at Trevor Lawrence, the way he's playing. Look how good Trevor Lawrence looks. Trevor Lawrence looks sensational. Okay, he looks sensational. I didn't think he really looked all that hot against Washington. Okay, but against the Colts and this last week against the Chargers, I thought he looked great. S. Blunt says yes. Park says hell no. It was absolutely someone wanted someone else to look bad. Hey, I'm gonna land on the side of what a word that Xander used. How about this? Doug probably wanted Jalen, but it's fishy. Is that fair? It's fishy on how the whole thing unraveled. If you love your quarterback so much, why didn't you just play Jalen in the final game and have that part of the process and continue his growth on getting as many game reps as possible? Maybe you didn't want to get him hurt. Hey, Drew Brees got hurt in the final game before when he was with the Chargers. Almost destroyed his career. That could be part. I'm just asking, Doug's exit was fishy. Jalen Hurts' last game with Doug was fishy. You feel me? That's all I'm saying. And how I wanted to transition into this, what would have happened? Jalen Hurts is just named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month. Quite an accomplishment for a guy that's doing auditions every week. Could Doug have Jalen where he is right now? Do you think he would have evolved him into being what you're seeing right now? Or would there have been too much meddling? Because you got to figure this, how he's involved in his development. You know why? Because Sirianni can deal and manage Howie Roseman better than Doug. Doug's biggest problem in Philadelphia was what? He didn't know how to manage the general manager's ego. There is no question that Frank Reich told Nick, you want to get along in that organization and you want to go places in that organization and you want them to be totally behind you, you have got to let the general manager be part of all major decisions that go on with player development, game planning, everything. I'm not saying that Howie puts a game plan down and goes, hey, let's run this. But Howie wants to be in the room. Is that at least give me that? Okay, he wants to be involved. So I'm going to make this statement to you. I don't think Doug could have done a better job than what Nick and Shane Steichen are doing. I don't. I think Doug could have if he was left alone. Doug's being left alone. You think Trent Baalke's involved in the development of Trevor Lawrence right now? You don't really think that, do you? That's Doug Pederson and his coaching staff. It's Gibb and all them dudes. Mike McCoy and them guys. That was part of the plan, I would imagine, on how he got that job. We're going to talk to JP Shadrick at the bottom of the hour, and I'm going to ask him how he ended up with Shade Khan coming to an agreement to take that job. Look, I'm going to say it again. I don't think Doug could have developed Jalen the way he wanted to. I think this is a collaboration. Would you guys give me this? This is a collaboration between Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, and Howie in the room. Will you give me that? And so, with that dynamic being said, that room is developing Jalen to be who he is. Because let me go here with you. The least amount of resistance is the best formula for success. Doug would have had some resistance on the way he wanted to develop Jalen Hurts. Why? He played the quarterback position. He's a professional NFL player. Hell, Doug Pederson was an Eagle quarterback. Doug would have looked at it one way and said, no, he has to come this way, and he has to go up the mountain this particular way with this particular axe. And then you would have Howie saying, no, but we want this. Okay, is that fair? So at the end of the day, guess what? Jalen Hurts got the better coach. Even though Doug is a more seasoned coach and a guy that I'd love to play for. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to play for Nick Sirianni. I'm just saying that Nick has handled himself as a head coach in Philadelphia, and most importantly at the NovaCare Center. He's made the right moves. He's involved Howie, right? Defensively and offensively. He's completely brought him into the process. And you know what he did it with? He did it with rose petals. If I could give you guys one comment that Jimmy Johnson said to me years ago, I said, Coach, what was your biggest mistake in Dallas? You know what he said? Not letting Jerry play with his toy enough. And I go, what'd you mean? He goes, him on the sidelines. I shouldn't have threw him off. Him wanting to be in draft rooms. I shouldn't have given him more shit on that. Him wanting to be part of a process and putting a game plan together. I should have let him sit in. It's his team. He writes the checks. So, Jimmy even said it. If I had to do that all over again, I would have let Jerry be not involved, but part of the process. Is that fair? So at the end of the day, as great as this story is with Nick coming into town, the best coach for Jalen Hurts is on the Eagle sideline. Sirianni's a better coach for Jalen Hurts than what Doug Pederson would have been. Do you agree? Hey, Nick, guess what? NovaCare's a bum facility. You'd be shocked how many facilities around the NFL don't come close to those college facilities. When I played college football and I went to the pros, I was stunned. The old Eagle facility under the vet was awful. It was a shithole, man. The deal. You buy it, huh? I started thinking, who would be the better coach for Jalen Hurts today? Doug has done. Hey, right now, get this. Guess who the sports bettors have as the top candidates for Coach of the Year? Nick Sirianni and Doug Pederson. They have those two guys as potential winners of the Coach of the Year award in the job that they have done. Look at what they've done with Trevor. Guy looks completely different than yet last year. Look what the coach, and by the way, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take anything away from what Jalen Hurts has done with his hard work. I'm not saying it's the coaching, the game plan. That's something to do with it. It surely is. I get it. And Jalen's hard work has been 10 times more effective in the hard work that he's put in to getting him that award where he's now the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, the month. All that hard work, he did it. He did it himself. Okay? And by the way, I'm the one that reported to you that he was working with Tom House. How many people in Philadelphia said I was full of shit? Now it's coming out he was. He wasn't working out with Tom Brady. He was working out with Tom House, Brady's quarterback coach. I told you that he was in Southern California. Remember that, Xander? I told you he was working out with him in the winter. That he was working out with Tom House. How long will it be before Nick tires of Howie? Debbie, great comment. Look at Debbie's comment. How long before Nick Sirianni tires of Howie? Deb, here's the key. Brady and Belichick never tired of one another. They never hung out. They never went to parties. They never were in places. I never saw Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the same room unless it was a visit at the White House or it was the parade. I never saw those guys together. Those guys had spent so much time together, and Brady was so willing to work with the best defensive-minded coach of all time. That's why that thing worked, because Brady knew how to manage Belichick. Brady's the only guy in NFL history that has managed Bill Belichick outside of Bill Parcells. I think those are the only two people he respects. Maybe Lawrence Taylor, maybe. But he even got tired of Lawrence Taylor. He would go to Parcells. How many times? Parcells set his ass right. Lawrence Taylor showed up late once to a team meeting, and he addressed it with Parcells. And Parcells goes like this to Belichick. Did you start the meeting? He goes, yeah, I started it. He goes, why? Hold up the meeting for Lawrence Taylor? He goes, yeah. Then you deal with him privately. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice the rest of your team because one guy makes a mistake. That's poor coaching. That's how Belichick became a guy who dealt with players better. Why'd you start the meeting? Well, he was late. So? You kick a guy out whose name is Tom Taylor, not Lawrence Taylor. That's how you coach. Nick's doing a good job doing this. He's handling Howie Roseman. He really is. He's allowing Howie. And again, to circle back, the right coaches with Jalen Hurts. They're growing together. Shane Steichen, who took over after the 2-5 start, these guys have built a relationship up. Steichen's putting a customized system together for Jalen and putting some guardrails on it, and it's showing. What this coaching staff is doing that I don't think Doug Pederson can do is this. I don't think they would have customized a game plan. I think Doug would have wanted to do it his way. Now, look at what Doug did with Foles. Look at what Doug did with Carson Wentz. Look at all that stuff. When Doug lost his security blanket and Frank Reich, everything went to shit. Because Frank knew how to handle Howie. Remember, the buffer in between Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman and the owner was Frank Reich. Am I wrong when I say this to you guys? When Frank left the building, wasn't that the beginning of the unraveling of the relationship between Howie and Doug? Would that be fair to say? When Frank Reich left the building, wasn't there a different attitude, a different relationship, a different dichotomy between the owner, the GM, and the head coach, and the starting quarterback? All of that played into it. You see, the Eagles, I'm starting to figure out one thing about the Eagles, man. You know what that is? They want to be involved in everything, and the owner wants to have his pulse on everything. Because that's what executives and billionaires do. They've got their pulse on everything. They want to know. They want to know. And you have to manage that. And if you're going to, I think that's why you don't see these old school coaches in there any longer. Like the Dick Styles and the John Gruden styles. I think all that shit's out the window. I think that stuff is all out the window.